Scary Moment for me, not only producing Scary Moment, people said Vuyo was the toughest man to work with. What kind of a man was he?
Vuyo was an amazing man to work with. I must say I was also warned of this man when I came into television and onto this program. Just saying, you know, Vuyo, he's a tough guy, he's a this, he's a that. But the moment I sat down with Vuyo, and it was when I was doing the elections in 2004, I sat down next to him and he welcomed me like I've never been welcomed by anybody. He made me feel comfortable. And from that moment, we clicked.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even on Morning Live as yet. And we clicked, and until last week, we were amazing. You know, it was, we never had an argument, we never disagreed. We always disagreed, actually, you know, because we come from such different backgrounds, and yet we managed to find that, that point where we sort of, we understood each other, and I loved him for who he was, and that was just what was amazing about him.
I think the one thing that a lot of people don't understand is if you're going to come on set with Vuyo, know your story.
Yeah.
A lot of the co-presenters will say, oh, but you know, you should not have asked him that. But that's the kind of man he was. Quite a professional. He knew his story. He wanted to know whether you knew your story, and he gave you that credit as well if you did.
Yeah, Vuyo was the consummate professional. Nobody would understand how good he was until you sat on set with Vuyo. He would be playing solitaire 1 minute and the next second interviewing somebody with one of the most intense subject matters that you've ever heard. And he would get the answers. And it was like he would just kind of constantly be focused. He was absolutely brilliant at what he did. I learned so much from him. Even until last week, I was learning from him. I never stopped learning from him. He welcomed me, he helped me so much, we helped each other. Every morning we would come here.
I remember he used to run in with coffee for you. 2 cups of coffee. I remember he used to ask, where's mine?
He would arrive at work, he'd stop off at the garage sometimes and buy me a cup of coffee. And, you know, like a married couple, like at the moment now, what you're all doing at home, having a cup of coffee, you're sharing the newspaper, you're chatting to one another, you're sharing pictures of your children, you're talking about your day, what upsets you, what doesn't upset you. And that's what we were. You know, it didn't matter what we went through here at Morning Live or at the SABC or whatever.
In the passage, in the garage.
Vuyo and myself, there was always one constant. It was him and I. And I always knew that I'd come to work and I'd see that smiling face. And he'd walk through the door and it would, somehow everything would just feel better. And he would tell me the same thing. He said, you know, I keep coming here because I love working with you and I love this program and I love the people I work with. And that was Vuyo. He loved from his heart.
And I think it's one of those things that the whole country will share with you, that he did feel as if he was one of their own. Whether you're a politician, whether you're president, or you man the street, he was Vuyo, your brother.
Yeah, he was. And I think what's important to know about Vuyo as well is his passion for South Africa. There's never been a person, I mean, I would talk to Vuyo about my traveling and how I love going overseas and this, that and the next, and he's like, yeah, whatever. You know, whatever. It's about South Africa. I mean, he'd come here in the morning sometimes, and if he didn't have that flag on, he didn't know how he was going to go on air. It was actually more important to him to be wearing the South African flag than it was to be having a microphone on his jacket. You know, and that was, I think, that's the smallest way that I can sort of say how much South Africa loved, or he loved South Africa, and how much South Africa loved him. I've been overwhelmed by the response from South Africans out there, from Twitter to Facebook to my messages, my SMSs. I can't begin to tell you. It's been humbling, and I feel like I've lost my morning husband. But it's very sad, and
I'm sure the whole country feels the same way. Very, very sad indeed. What we are going to do, though, is that we're going to continue the show. I'm going to hand over to Valen with the latest from